Take a deep breath now. Inhale slowly. Hold for a moment and exhale. Let your eyes gently close or soften. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, you're here now. You're safe. Welcome to this soothing historical journey. I invite you to make yourself comfortable. Perhaps adjust your pillow, stretch your limbs gently, and allow your body to settle. Tonight, we'll wander through the homes and lives of the people who lived in this fascinating civilization thousands of years ago. Not the pharaohs in their grand palaces that often dominate our history books, but the ordinary families, the farmers, artisans, scribes, and servants who formed the backbone of this extraordinary society. Before we begin, I'd love to know, where are you listening from and what time is it for you? Drop a comment below. I read everyone's comment. It's a small way to feel connected, even in the quiet. And if this kind of soothing journey helps you to sleep, kindly consider subscribing this channel. I'd love to see you again. Now, let's start today's historical journey. The year is approximately 1400 BCE, during what historians call the New Kingdom period. The morning sun is just beginning to rise over the fertile banks of the Nile River. Can you picture it? The golden light spreading across the landscape, illuminating a world both familiar and wonderfully different from our own. If you're finding this journey helpful for your sleep, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us create more of these historical sleep journeys for you to enjoy. Now, let us begin our gentle exploration of life in ancient Egyptian households, where the rhythm of daily existence flowed with the great river that was the lifeblood of their civilization. Dawn on the Nile. As the first light breaks over the eastern horizon, the households of ancient Egypt begin to stir. The air is still cool from the night, a blessed relief before the intense heat that will come with the higher sun. In a modest home near the riverbank, a woman named Neferet rises from her sleeping mat. The house is simple but practical, built of sun-dried mud bricks that keep the interior remarkably cool even during the hottest days. Take a moment to visualize this home. Unlike our modern houses with their many rooms and specialized spaces, the typical Egyptian dwelling was compact and multi-purpose. For most families, a single main room served for daily activities, with perhaps one or two smaller chambers for sleeping or storage. The walls, thick and sturdy, are plastered with mud and painted white or in soft earth tones to reflect the harsh sunlight. The floors beneath Neferet's bare feet are made of packed earth, swept clean, and occasionally sprinkled with water to keep down the dust. Some wealthier homes might have floors covered with colorful reed mats, but most families lived simply. Breathe deeply now. Inhale through your nose, hold for 3 counts, and release through your mouth. With each breath, feel yourself sinking deeper into relaxation as we continue our journey. Neferet moves to the small courtyard adjacent to the main room. This open space is central to Egyptian home life, a place for cooking, working, and gathering during the cooler hours. Here, a fire pit awaits the morning meal preparation. Unlike our modern kitchens with their array of appliances, Egyptian cooking was done simply, over open flames or in clay ovens. From a clay jar, Neferet takes a portion of dough that was set to rise overnight. Bread was the staple food for all Egyptians, from the poorest farmer to the pharaoh himself, though the quality and ingredients varied greatly by social status. For ordinary families like Neferet's, bread was made primarily from emmer wheat, a hardy ancient grain well-suited to Egypt's climate. Did you know that archaeologists have discovered actual loaves of bread preserved in ancient tombs? The Egyptians believed the deceased would need sustenance in the afterlife, so they included real food among the grave goods. These ancient loaves, though now hardened to stone-like consistency, have allowed scientists to study the Egyptian diet in remarkable detail. They've found that Egyptian bread often contained barley, seeds, and sometimes even fruits for flavor. As Neferet works the dough with practiced hands, her children begin to wake. The family sleeps together on simple reed mats placed directly on the floor or on low mud brick platforms. Pillows, when used, were made of wood with indented sections to cradle the head, far different from our soft cushions today. Many Egyptians used headrests rather than pillows, curved supports that elevated the head and protected elaborate hairstyles. Take another deep breath now, in through your nose, hold it gently, and out through your mouth. Feel your shoulders softening, your jaw relaxing as we continue our journey through this ancient household. If you're enjoying this historical sleep journey, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. It truly helps us continue creating these soothing historical narratives. Morning routines. As the household fully awakens, we observe their morning routines. Cleanliness was highly valued in ancient Egyptian culture, a practical necessity in a hot climate and also tied to religious concepts of purity. Despite not having running water as we know it today, Egyptians were remarkably clean people. Water for the household has been collected the previous evening from the Nile or from a nearby canal in large clay pots. Now, family members take turns washing their faces and hands. The Egyptians used a substance called natron, a natural mineral salt, mixed with water as a kind of soap. They also created cleansing creams from animal fats mixed with lime and perfumed with fragrant oils. Visualize the scene. Morning light filtering through the small windows high on the walls, the sounds of water being poured into basins, the faint scent of perfumed oils as the family prepares for the day ahead. Neferet's husband, Amenemhat, is a craftsman who works in a nearby workshop creating furniture for wealthier homes. He rises early, washing thoroughly before applying kohl, a dark eye paint made from ground minerals, around his eyes. This wasn't merely decorative. The black liner helped reduce glare from the bright sun and may have had antibacterial properties that protected against eye infections common in the dusty environment. Both men and women in ancient Egypt wore this eye makeup, along with various oils and perfumes to protect their skin from the harsh climate. Beauty and hygiene were not seen as frivolous concerns, but as essential aspects of health and religious purity. Now, take a moment to breathe deeply again. Inhale slowly, hold the breath, and exhale completely. Feel your body becoming heavier, more relaxed with each breath. The children of the household are now fully awake. Unlike our modern concept of childhood with its extended education and play, Egyptian children quickly assumed roles that prepared them for adult responsibilities. By age 4 or 5, they would be helping with household tasks or beginning to learn their father's trade if they were boys, or domestic skills if they were girls. However, this doesn't mean childhood was without joy. Archaeological evidence shows us that Egyptian children had toys, dolls made of clay or wood, balls made of leather and stuffed with plant fibers, even toy animals with movable parts. Games were popular, including a board game called Senet, which was so beloved it was often included in tomb goods for entertainment in the afterlife. As the morning meal is prepared, the family gathers in the courtyard. The Egyptian diet was remarkably healthy by ancient standards, based on bread, beer, a much safer option than potentially contaminated water, fresh vegetables, fruits, and occasionally fish or meat for those who could afford it. Breakfast might consist of bread, perhaps dipped in beer, which was thicker and more nutritious than our modern versions, almost like a thin porridge, along with some green onions, garlic, or dates when in season. The meal is simple but filling, providing energy for the work ahead. Take a moment to imagine the tastes and smells, the slightly sour bread, the sweet dates, the pungent garlic. The Egyptians appreciated these flavors, understanding the connection between food and health long before modern nutrition science. Daytime activities and work. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the real work of the day begins. Let's follow different members of our household to understand how Egyptians spent their days. Amenemhat heads to his workshop where he crafts furniture using simple but effective tools, copper chisels and saws, stone hammers, and drills operated by bowstrings. Despite these basic instruments, Egyptian craftsmen created pieces of remarkable beauty and durability. Some surviving examples of their furniture, chairs, beds, chests, are so elegantly designed they appear almost modern to our eyes. Breathe deeply now in, hold, and out. Allow your imagination to transport you to this ancient workshop where the air is filled with the scent of cedar wood imported from Lebanon, acacia, and sycamore from local sources. Hear the rhythmic sounds of sawing, the tap of mallets on chisels, the soft scratching of sandstone used to smooth rough edges. Take a slow, deep breath in, hold it for a moment, and release, feeling a wave of relaxation flow through your body. Meanwhile, back at the home, Neferet and her daughters have multiple responsibilities. Textile production was a critical household industry, and much of a woman's day might be spent spinning flax fibers into thread and then weaving that thread into linen cloth on a simple loom. This linen was the primary material for Egyptian clothing, perfect for the hot climate, as it's light, breathable, and can be washed easily. The basic garment for both men and women was a simple white shift called a calasiris, though styles and elaboration varied by social class and over different periods. Did you know that the ancient Egyptians achieved remarkable skill in textile production? The finest royal linens were so delicately woven they were described as woven air and could be pulled through a finger ring despite being a full-sized garment. While ordinary households produced more practical fabrics, the techniques were similar, passed down from mother to daughter through generations. Visualize Neferet seated at her loom, the shuttle moving back and forth with practiced precision, the threads gradually forming cloth that will eventually become garments for her family or perhaps be bartered for other necessities. If you're finding this historical journey soothing, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us create more of these relaxing historical narratives. Now, take another deep breath, in through your nose, hold for a moment, and out through your mouth. Feel yourself drifting deeper into relaxation as our journey continues. The oldest daughter, Merit, has gone to help her grandmother, who lives nearby. Extended families often lived close to one another, with the elderly integrated into daily life rather than separated, as is sometimes the case in our modern society. The wisdom and experience of older generations were highly valued, and they contributed to the household by performing lighter tasks and caring for young children. The youngest children play in the dirt courtyard, occasionally helping with simple chores, but mostly entertaining themselves with toys and games. One plays with a wooden doll with movable arms, another rolls a ball made of reeds bound together with string. They play a game similar to modern jacks, using small stones and knuckle bones from animals. Midday brings the most intense heat and activity slows. Many Egyptians would take a break during these hours, retreating to the shade. The thick mud brick walls of their homes provided natural insulation, keeping interiors remarkably cool compared to the outside temperature. Take a moment now to imagine seeking refuge from the midday Egyptian sun. Feel the contrast between the burning heat outside and the cool shadows within the home. Breathe slowly and deeply, in, hold, and out, feeling your body temperature regulate with each breath, just as the Egyptian home regulated the extreme temperatures of their environment. Afternoon in the ancient home. As the worst of the day's heat begins to fade, activity resumes. Let's return to our Egyptian household to observe their afternoon routines. Water management was a constant concern in this desert civilization. Every drop was precious, collected and used with care. In the late afternoon, younger members of the household might make another trip to the Nile or canal to replenish the family's supply, carrying large clay jars balanced on their heads or shoulders. Visualize this procession to the water source, a scene that would have been familiar throughout Egypt's long history. People gathering at the banks of canals or the great river itself, dipping their vessels into the life-giving water, exchanging news and conversation. This daily ritual was not just a chore, but a social occasion, a time for community interaction. Take a deep breath now. In slowly through your nose, hold for a few seconds, and release through your mouth. Feel your body becoming heavier, more relaxed with each breath. Back at home, preparations for the evening meal begin. Cooking was done primarily by women and was more complex than the morning's simple breakfast. A typical dinner might include bread, vegetables like onions, leeks, and garlic, pulses such as lentils, and perhaps fish caught in the Nile. Meat was a luxury for most families, enjoyed only occasionally, perhaps during festivals or special celebrations. The cooking techniques were ingenious despite their simplicity. Food might be boiled in clay pots placed directly in the fire, roasted on spits over open flames, or baked in conical clay ovens similar to modern tandoors. These beehive-shaped ovens were heated by building a fire inside. When the proper temperature was reached, the fire was removed, and dough placed on the hot interior walls would bake quickly. The Egyptians seasoned their food with herbs grown in small garden plots. Coriander, dill, cumin, and mint were favorites. They sweetened dishes with honey, the primary sweetener in the ancient world, collected from domesticated bees kept in cylindrical clay hives. Can you imagine the aromas filling the courtyard? The yeasty scent of baking bread, the sharp tang of onions and garlic, the sweet perfume of honey being drizzled over fig cakes prepared for dessert. These smells would signal the approaching evening to all members of the household. Take another moment to breathe deeply. In, hold, and out, allowing these imagined scents to enhance your journey through ancient Egypt. If you're enjoying this historical sleep journey, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support allows us to continue creating these soothing narratives. Evening rituals. As the sun begins its descent toward the western horizon, family members return home. The evening meal is the main gathering of the day, a time when the household comes together to share food and conversation. Unlike our modern dining setups with tables and chairs for everyone, most Egyptian families would sit on reed mats on the floor, gathered around communal dishes. They typically ate with their hands, though spoons carved from wood or ivory were used for soups and porridges. The wealthier the household, the more elaborate these implements might be, but the basic manner of eating was similar across social classes. Lighting in the evening was provided by simple oil lamps, small clay vessels filled with vegetable oil, usually from flax seeds, with a floating wick made of twisted plant fibers. These lamps cast a warm, flickering glow sufficient for basic activities, but nothing like our bright electric lighting today. Many tasks requiring good vision were therefore completed during daylight hours. Now, take a deep breath, in through your nose, hold it gently, and release through your mouth. Feel the rhythm of your breathing matching the gentle pace of life in this ancient household. After the meal, the family might spend time together in conversation or simple entertainment. Music was an important part of Egyptian culture, enjoyed by all social classes. In humble homes, family members might play instruments like small hand drums, rattles made from gourds filled with pebbles, or simple flutes carved from reeds. Storytelling was another cherished evening activity. Egypt had a rich oral tradition long before stories were written down. Tales of the gods, legends of past pharaohs, moral fables, and practical wisdom were passed down through generations by word of mouth. Children would learn their culture's values and history as they listened to these stories told by parents and grandparents in the gentle lamplight. Visualize this scene. The family gathered in the main room or courtyard. The children's eyes wide as they listened to tales of Isis and Osiris, of creation and the afterlife, of the annual flooding of the Nile that brought life to the desert. The soft light of oil lamps casting long shadows on the walls, the night air gradually cooling after the day's heat. Take another deep breath now, in, hold, and out. Feeling yourself drifting deeper into relaxation as our journey continues. As evening progresses, the family prepares for sleep. Unlike our heavily scheduled modern lives with specific bedtimes, ancient Egyptians generally followed the rhythm of natural light, retiring not long after sunset to conserve expensive lamp oil and rise with the dawn. The sleeping arrangements were simple by our standards. Reed mats would be unrolled on the floor or on built-in mud brick platforms in sleeping areas. Wealthier families might have wooden bed frames with woven string or reed mattresses, but most people slept on much simpler bedding. In the hottest months, many Egyptians would sleep on the flat roofs of their homes to catch the cooler night breezes. Before sleep, a final ritual for many Egyptians would be a prayer or small offering to household deities or ancestors. Religion was thoroughly integrated into daily life, not separated as we often experience it today. Small shrines with images of gods like Bes, the protector of households, or Taweret, guardian of mothers and children, might be found in many homes. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out. Feeling your body growing heavier, your mind more peaceful as we prepare to leave our ancient Egyptian household for the night. Dreams on the Nile. As our Egyptian family drifts to sleep, let's take a moment to consider how they understood dreams. The ancient Egyptians placed great importance on dreams, believing they could be messages from the gods or glimpses into the spirit world. Dream interpretation was a specialized skill practiced by priests in temples. People would travel great distances to have significant dreams explained by these experts. Records of dream interpretations have been preserved in ancient texts, showing us how seriously they were taken. Some Egyptians practiced what we might now call dream incubation, the deliberate attempt to receive helpful dreams by sleeping in sacred places. Those seeking healing might sleep in a temple dedicated to Imhotep or Sekhmet, deities associated with medicine, hoping to receive divine guidance about their ailments. Take a deep, soothing breath now, in through your nose. Hold for a moment and out through your mouth. Allow your own dreams to be peaceful as we continue our journey. The night passes quietly over our Egyptian household. The stars wheel overhead, the same stars we see today, though the Egyptians grouped them into different constellations and gave them different meanings. They saw the goddess Nut stretched across the sky, her body forming the great arc of the heavens. The stars were souls of the blessed dead, the planets were manifestations of gods, and the predictable movements of these celestial bodies helped form the Egyptian calendar and religious festivals. Take another deep breath. In, hold, and out, feeling yourself floating peacefully beneath these ancient stars. If you're finding this journey through ancient Egypt helpful for your sleep, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating these historical sleep journeys. We've observed a typical day in our Egyptian household, but to truly understand their lives, we should consider how their routines change with the seasons. Unlike our 4 seasons, ancient Egyptians divided their year into 3 distinct seasons, all centered around the Nile River that was the heartbeat of their civilization. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out, as we explore the rhythm of the Egyptian year. The first season was Akhet, the inundation or flooding period. When the annual flood arrived, usually in July, the Nile would spill over its banks, covering farmland with water and nutrient-rich silt. During this time, farmers couldn't work their fields, so many were called for corvée labor, mandatory public works service, helping to build or repair temples, pyramids, and other monumental projects. For our household, this might mean Amenemhat temporarily leaving his craftsman's workshop to fulfill this obligation, while the women of the family might increase textile production or other household industries to compensate for the change in routine. The second season, Peret, was the growing season when the floodwaters receded, leaving behind fertile soil perfect for planting. This was a time of intense agricultural activity. Even families primarily engaged in crafts or other occupations might have small garden plots to tend. Visualize the transformed landscape, where there had been water, now stretched fields of green, wheat and barley growing tall, vegetables flourishing in garden plots near the houses. The air would be filled with the sense of damp earth and growing things, the sounds of farmers calling to oxen pulling wooden plows, birds singing as they feasted on insects disturbed by the fieldwork. Take a slow, deep breath, in, hold, and out, feeling the gentle rhythm of these ancient seasons. The third season was Shemu, the harvest and drought period. Heat would intensify, the land would dry, and all efforts focused on harvesting and storing crops before they could wither. This was a time of both hard work and celebration, culminating in harvest festivals that thanked the gods for their bounty. During Shemu, our household would be busy processing and preserving food. Grain would be measured carefully and stored in large clay jars or dedicated storage rooms, protected from pests with various natural repellents. Some fruits would be dried in the sun for preservation, vegetables might be pickled, and any surplus might be bartered for other necessities. This seasonal cycle governed not just agriculture, but the entire rhythm of Egyptian life. Religious festivals, tax collection, commerce, and daily work all flowed with the Nile's predictable pattern. This gave Egyptian civilization a stability and continuity that lasted for thousands of years. Breathe deeply again, in, hold, and out, feeling yourself connected to this ancient rhythm as our journey continues. Health and healing in the Egyptian home. As we continue our exploration of life in ancient Egyptian households, let's consider how they managed health and illness. A concern as universal in ancient times as it is today. When members of our household fell ill, their approach to healing would combine what we might now consider practical medicine with religious and magical elements. The Egyptians didn't separate these aspects as we do. To them, addressing both physical symptoms and spiritual causes was the logical way to restore health. Take a deep breath now, in, hold, and out, as we explore these ancient healing practices. For minor ailments, cuts, bruises, headaches, digestive troubles, the family would rely on home remedies passed down through generations. Many Egyptian households maintained a small garden of medicinal plants. Garlic was valued for its antibacterial properties, used to treat respiratory infections and digestive issues. Aloe was applied to burns and skin irritations. Mint eased stomach pains, while coriander reduced fever. These herbs would be prepared in various ways. Ground into poultices, steeped in beer or water to make medicinal drinks, or mixed with honey, which the Egyptians recognized had preservative and antibacterial properties. Many of these remedies had genuine medicinal value that modern science has confirmed. For persistent or serious conditions, a family might consult a specialist. Egyptian medicine was surprisingly advanced, with different types of physicians for different ailments. Some focused on wounds and injuries, others on internal diseases, still others on women's health and childbirth. The most skilled physicians were often attached to temples or the royal court, but smaller communities had local healers with practical knowledge. Visualize Neferet preparing a remedy for her youngest child who has a cough, crushing garlic and mixing it with honey, warming the mixture slightly before administering it by spoon. The strong smell fills the room. The child grimaces at the taste but accepts the medicine from a trusted parent's hand. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, feeling your body relaxing deeper with each breath. Alongside these practical treatments, the Egyptians employed amulets, incantations, and prayers to address what they perceived as the spiritual aspects of illness. A child with fever might wear a carved amulet representing Sekhmet, the goddess associated with both causing and curing disease. An expectant mother might place a figurine of Taweret, the hippopotamus goddess who protected childbirth, near her sleeping mat. These practices weren't seen as separate from or inferior to physical remedies, but as complementary approaches addressing different dimensions of health. The Egyptians developed a holistic understanding of well-being that in some ways parallels modern interest in mind-body connections. If you're enjoying this historical sleep journey, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating these soothing historical narratives. Now breathe deeply in, hold, and out, allowing yourself to drift peacefully as our exploration continues. Children's lives and education. Let's turn our attention more fully to the children of our ancient Egyptian household. How did they grow up? What was their education like? How did their experiences differ from modern childhood? Take a deep breath in, hold, and out as we explore the world of Egyptian children. From infancy, Egyptian children were cherished and protected. Parents used various protective amulets and charms to ward off disease and evil influences from their babies. Mothers typically breastfed their infants for up to 3 years, a practice that provided not only nutrition but also some immunity to common diseases. Childhood in ancient Egypt was briefer than in our modern society. By age 4 or 5, children would begin taking on simple household responsibilities, fetching water, helping with younger siblings, like assisting with cooking or crafts. Play and work blended together as children learned by doing, gradually taking on more complex tasks as they grew. Visualize the children of our household, the youngest playing with simple toys, dolls, balls, spinning tops, while also beginning to learn through observation. A 5-year-old girl watches intently as her mother weaves, occasionally being allowed to try her hand at the simple parts of the process. A 7-year-old boy follows his father to the workshop, learning to identify different woods and tools. Take another relaxing breath in, hold, and out, feeling yourself gently present with these ancient children. Formal education varied greatly depending on gender and social class. For most girls, education happened entirely within the household, focused on domestic skills, household management, textile production, food preparation, and childcare. Some girls from elite families might learn to read and write, but this was uncommon. Boys from craftsmen's families, like our household, might receive basic literacy alongside apprenticeship in their father's trade. learning to read and write was a considerable advantage in Egyptian society, but was primarily reserved for boys destined for careers as scribes, priests, or administrators. For those who did receive formal education, the process was rigorous and sometimes harsh by our standards. Students typically began around age 7 at temple schools or in the households of established scribes. They memorized hundreds of hieroglyphic signs and practiced writing on pottery shards or limestone flakes before graduating to papyrus, which was too valuable to use for beginners. Did you know that archaeologists have discovered ancient Egyptian homework? Limestone flakes and pottery shards covered with practice writing exercises, sometimes with corrections from teachers, give us a window into the educational process. Some even include notes from frustrated instructors admonishing students to work harder or pay better attention, a reminder that some aspects of the student-teacher relationship haven't changed much in thousands of years. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out, allowing your mind to wander through these ancient classrooms and learning spaces. Practical technology in daily life. The ancient Egyptians developed remarkable technologies that made their daily lives more comfortable and productive, all without electricity or modern power sources. Let's explore some of these ingenious solutions that would have been found in or around our typical household. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we discover these ancient innovations. Water management was perhaps the Egyptians' most crucial technological achievement. The shaduf, a simple but effective lever system with a counterweight, allowed one person to lift water from the Nile or canals to higher irrigation channels. This invention dramatically increased the amount of land that could be cultivated and made watering garden plots much more efficient. In the home, clever design features helped manage Egypt's extreme climate. High windows created natural air circulation, drawing hot air upward and out while allowing cooler air to flow in. Rooftop sleeping areas caught evening breezes. Some wealthier homes featured early evaporative cooling systems. Porous clay jars filled with water placed in windows, so air passing through would be cooled by evaporation. Visualize these practical technologies in use. Amenemhet's teenage son operating a shaduf near their small garden plot, rhythmically dipping and raising the long wooden lever to transfer water from a canal to an irrigation channel. Meanwhile, Neferet has placed dampened reed mats in the doorways of their home. As hot air passes through the damp material, it cools slightly, providing some relief from the afternoon heat. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, feeling your body cool and comfortable as you continue this journey. Lighting technologies were simple but effective. Besides oil lamps for evening illumination, the Egyptians designed their homes to make maximum use of natural light. In some buildings, they created clerestory windows, high openings that let in light while minimizing heat gain. They also used polished metal mirrors to reflect sunlight into darker interior spaces. For food storage in the hot climate, Egyptians developed various preservation techniques. Large pottery vessels were partially buried in the ground, creating naturally cooler storage areas. Salt from the desert and Nile Delta was used to preserve fish and meat. Honey, with its natural antibacterial properties, preserved fruits and some vegetables. In textile production, the Egyptians created horizontal looms that could be operated by one person to produce fine linen cloth. Their spinning techniques using simple drop spindles created thread of remarkable consistency and strength. Breathe deeply, in, hold, and out, appreciating these ancient technologies that sustained daily life for thousands of years. If you're finding this historical journey soothing, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating these relaxing historical narratives. Religious life in the home. Religion wasn't a separate aspect of life for ancient Egyptians, but was woven into every daily activity. Let's explore how religious beliefs and practices manifested within the typical household. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we discover the spiritual dimension of Egyptian home life. Most Egyptian homes contain small shrines dedicated to household deities and ancestors. These might be simple niches in the wall or more elaborate wooden structures, depending on the family's means. Here, the family would place offerings, food, flowers, incense, and say prayers for protection and prosperity. Certain gods were particularly associated with home and family life. Bes, a dwarf deity with leonine features, watched over households, particularly protecting against snakes and other dangers. Taweret, depicted as a pregnant hippopotamus standing upright, guarded mothers and children. Bastet, the cat goddess, protected the home from vermin and disease. Visualize the small shrine in our Egyptian household. A niche carved into the mud brick wall, perhaps painted in bright colors. A wooden figurine of Bes stands guard, wearing his feathered crown. A small stone bowl holds the remains of incense burned that morning, while a tiny pottery cup contains beer offered to ancestors. Dried flowers from a previous offering remain, their faded colors still bringing beauty to this sacred space. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, feeling connected to these ancient spiritual practices. Religion influenced countless daily activities. Before baking bread, a woman might make a small gesture of thanks to Renanutet, goddess of the harvest. A craftsman starting work might whisper a prayer to Ptah, divine patron of artisans. Children were taught to respect Khnum, who formed people on his potter's wheel, or Hathor, whose music and dance brought joy to human hearts. Major religious festivals punctuated the year, bringing communities together and breaking the routine of daily life. During these celebrations, even humble households would prepare special foods, don their best clothing, and participate in communal rituals honoring the gods. Some festivals lasted for days with processions, music, feasting, and ceremonies that allowed everyone, regardless of social status, to feel connected to the divine order. Personal piety also expressed itself through amulets worn on the body. Nearly everyone, from the wealthiest noble to the poorest farmer, wore protective symbols like the Eye of Horus, the Ankh, symbol of life, or the Jed pillar, representing stability. These weren't mere decorations, but earnest expressions of faith and desire for divine protection. Breathe deeply now. In, hold, and out. Feeling the subtle presence of these ancient beliefs that comforted and guided countless generations. Social connections and community. No household existed in isolation in ancient Egypt. Let's explore how our family connected with their broader community and how social relationships shaped their daily lives. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we widen our perspective to include the neighborhood around our household. Markets were essential community gathering places where goods were exchanged and news shared. Smaller local markets might be held daily, while larger ones operated weekly in more central locations. Here, Neferet might trade excess linen cloth woven by her household for items they couldn't produce themselves: pottery, metal tools, specialized foods, or imported goods. Egyptian markets operated primarily on a barter system rather than using currency. People traded goods directly: a jar of honey for a bundle of flax, a wooden tool for a basket of figs. Value was determined by mutual agreement and community standards rather than fixed prices. Only in the later periods of Egyptian history did standardized forms of exchange develop. Visualize the local market, a dusty open area near the village center, shaded by a few palm trees. Vendors arrange their goods on mats spread on the ground or simple wooden tables. The air fills with sounds of haggling, laughter, and conversation. Children run between stalls while adults conduct business and exchange the latest news. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, feeling yourself present in this vibrant ancient marketplace. Religious festivals provided another important dimension of community life. These celebrations brought people together across social boundaries. During the festival of Opet, for instance, or the beautiful Feast of the Valley, ordinary Egyptians could witness grand processions of divine images, receive blessings, share ritual meals, and momentarily experience a connection to the same divine powers that sustained the pharaoh and the state. Work projects often required community cooperation. When a new house needed construction, neighbors would come together to help make mud bricks and raise walls. Irrigation projects required coordinated effort to maintain canals and water distribution systems that benefited everyone. These collaborative tasks strengthened social bonds and ensured community resilience. Villages and urban neighborhoods developed strong identities, with residents looking out for one another. Children were raised not just by their parents, but watched over by many adults. Elders received respect and care from the entire community, not just their immediate family. Take a moment now to breathe deeply, inhale slowly, Hold for a few seconds and exhale completely. Feel your connection to your own community as you explore these ancient social bonds. If you're enjoying this historical sleep journey, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating these soothing historical narratives. Family structure and relationships. The family unit was the foundation of Egyptian society. Let's look more closely at the relationships within our household and how they reflected broader Egyptian values. Take a deep breath in, hold, and out as we explore these intimate connections that shaped daily life. Marriage in ancient Egypt was primarily a social and economic arrangement rather than a religious sacrament, though it was still considered a sacred bond. Most marriages were monogamous, except among the highest elite, who might practice polygamy for political alliances. Marriages were typically arranged by families, though evidence suggests young people had some input in the decision, especially in lower and middle-class families like our household. Unlike many ancient societies, Egyptian women enjoyed relatively equal legal status with men. They could own property independently, initiate divorce, and represent themselves in court. Marriage contracts from ancient Egypt show provisions protecting women's rights to property and maintenance in case of divorce. Visualize the relationship between Nakht and Neferet, partners not just in raising children, but in maintaining their household economy. While their roles were different and complementary, there existed a fundamental respect between them. They make decisions together about family resources, discuss their children's futures, and support each other through life's challenges. Take another deep breath. In, hold, and out, feeling the gentle strength of these ancient family bonds. Children were highly valued in Egyptian society, not just as economic assets, but as the continuation of the family line and as fulfillment of religious duty. Parents hoped for many children, though infant and child mortality was high. Surviving children were cherished, and evidence from art, literature, and archaeology shows the genuine affection Egyptian parents felt for their offspring. Within families, specific responsibilities fell to different members according to age and gender, creating interdependence. Older siblings helped care for younger ones. Adult children were expected to care for aging parents. Even in death, family connections remained important. Children were responsible for maintaining offerings at their parents' tombs to ensure their well-being in the afterlife. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out. Feeling these timeless family connections that span generations. Entertainment and leisure. Though life in ancient Egypt required hard work, people still found time for recreation and entertainment. Let's explore how our household might have enjoyed their leisure hours. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out as we discover these ancient pleasures. Music and dance were central to Egyptian entertainment. Simple instruments like hand drums, rattles, harps, and flutes could be found even in modest homes. Family celebrations, birthdays, marriages, successful harvests would feature music and dancing. Professional musicians and dancers might be hired for special occasions by those who could afford them, but household members making their own music was common across all social classes. Board games were enormously popular in ancient Egypt. Archaeological evidence shows games like Senet and Mehen were played by people of all social ranks. Senet, played on a board of 30 squares with moving pieces, may have symbolized the soul's journey through the afterlife, though it was enjoyed as a casual pastime as well. Game boards were sometimes scratched into stone or dirt for a quick game, while elaborate boards with storage drawers for pieces have been found in wealthier contexts. Visualize an evening scene in our household, Amenemhat and his oldest son playing Senet by lamplight, concentrating on their strategy. Nearby, Neferet tells a story to the younger children, while her teenage daughter practices a simple tune on a reed flute. The family dog, yes, Egyptians kept dogs as pets, sleeps contentedly at their feet. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, feeling the simple joy of these ancient leisure activities. Egyptians also enjoyed swimming and boating on the Nile for recreation. On hot days, children especially would splash in canals or the shallows of the river, providing both relief from the heat and an opportunity for play. Even fishing, though primarily a food-gathering activity, had recreational aspects that Egyptians clearly enjoyed, based on scenes depicted in tomb paintings. Festivals offered the most elaborate entertainment. Professional acrobats, musicians, and storytellers would perform. Games of skill and strength allowed young men to demonstrate their abilities. Special foods and drink added to the festive atmosphere. These celebrations were eagerly anticipated breaks from routine that refreshed both body and spirit. Breathe deeply now. In, hold, and out, allowing yourself to experience the simple pleasures that have brought humanity joy for thousands of years. If you're finding this historical journey through ancient Egypt relaxing, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support truly helps us create more of these soothing historical narratives. The ancient Egyptian home after dark. As we continue our exploration of life in ancient Egyptian households, let's consider how the family experienced the night hours, a time both mysterious and peaceful in the ancient world. Take a deep breath, in, hold, as we enter the quiet Egyptian night. The setting of the sun transformed the household's activities and atmosphere. Without abundant artificial light, the rhythm of day and night shaped behavior much more directly than in our modern world. The Egyptians did have lamps, shallow dishes of clay or stone filled with oil with a twisted wick floating on the surface. But the light they produced was dim by our standards, and the oil was expensive. Most families would use lamps sparingly, perhaps lighting just one or two in the main living area after sunset. Activities requiring good vision, detailed crafts, reading, fine needlework would be set aside until daylight returned. Instead, this was a time for conversation, storytelling, singing, and eventually sleep. Visualize the household in these evening hours. The golden glow of oil lamps casting soft shadows on the walls, family members gathered in the main room, their faces illuminated by the gentle light. The day's work is done. This is a time for togetherness before rest. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out. Feeling yourself slowing down with the ancient household as night deepens. The night held spiritual significance for ancient Egyptians. They believed the sun god Ra traveled through the underworld during the night hours, facing dangers and enemies before being reborn at dawn. This cosmic drama played out each night, a divine parallel to human sleep and awakening. Stars were important in Egyptian religious and practical life. Certain star patterns marked the beginning of seasons or predicted the annual Nile flood. The star Sirius, which they called Sopdet, was particularly significant. Its pre-dawn appearance in summer heralded the coming inundation. Many Egyptians would have been familiar with major constellations, viewing the night sky not just with wonder, but with practical attention to these celestial timekeepers. Breathe deeply now. In, hold, and out. Imagining yourself beneath these ancient stars, the same stars we see today, though viewed through different cultural understanding. Sleep itself was considered a mysterious state, a cousin to death, but also a time when the soul might receive divine messages through dreams. The Egyptians developed various sleep aids, headrests carved from wood or stone, sometimes inscribed with protective spells, linen sheets for comfort, herbal preparations to encourage restful sleep or prevent nightmares. As the household settled for the night, a brief prayer or gesture toward household deities would be common, a request for protection during these vulnerable hours of unconsciousness. The Egyptians understood sleep as essential for health and well-being, recognizing its restorative powers. Take a deep breath now, in, hold, and out, allowing yourself to drift peacefully as our ancient household rests beneath the Egyptian night sky. Clothing and personal adornment. The ways in which ancient Egyptians dressed and adorned themselves reveal much about their practical needs, aesthetic values, and social structures. Let's explore how the members of our household presented themselves to the world. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we discover these ancient expressions of identity and status. The foundation of Egyptian clothing was linen, a breathable, washable fabric perfect for the hot climate. And flax plants grew well in the fertile Nile Valley, and the Egyptians developed sophisticated techniques for processing the fibers and weaving them into cloth of various qualities. From rough, everyday fabric to material so fine it was nearly transparent. The basic garment for men was a simple kilt or loincloth, while women wore a straight, sheath dress, often with shoulder straps. Children frequently went unclothed until puberty, practical in the hot climate and considering how quickly they outgrew garments. As Egypt's history progressed, styles became more elaborate, especially for the wealthy, but the emphasis on light, loose clothing remained constant. Visualize our household members preparing for a special occasion, perhaps a religious festival or family celebration. Amenemhat wears his best kilt, a pleated linen garment whiter and finer than his work clothes. Neferet has donned her special dress, also white but with colorful embroidery at the edges. Their teenage daughter has a new dress, simple but adorned with a beaded belt that she made herself. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, appreciating the simple elegance of these ancient garments. Jewelry was worn by all social classes, though with vast differences in materials and complexity. Even the humblest household might possess a few beaded necklaces, simple bracelets, or rings made from faience, a colorful ceramic material, bone, or shell. More prosperous families might own pieces incorporating semi-precious stones like carnelian, turquoise, or lapis lazuli. The wealthiest Egyptians, of course, adorned themselves with gold and silver. Jewelry wasn't merely decorative, but often served protective functions. Many pieces incorporated amulets, symbols like the Ankh, life, the Eye of Horus, protection, or the D-Jed pillar, stability, believed to confer specific benefits or ward off dangers. Children especially wore protective amulets against illness and accidents. Cosmetics were used by both men and women across social classes. The most characteristic was kohl, a dark eye paint applied to outline the eyes. This served multiple purposes, reducing glare from the bright sun, deterring flies that might spread eye infections, and possibly providing some antibacterial protection. The green eye paint made from malachite may have had similar practical benefits alongside its decorative function. Breathe deeply now in, hold, and out, imagining these ancient beauty practices that blended practicality expression with expression. If you're enjoying this historical sleep journey, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating these soothing historical narratives. Household objects and material culture. The objects that filled ancient Egyptian homes tell us much about daily life, values, and practical solutions to everyday challenges. Let's explore the material culture of our household. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we examine these ancient artifacts of daily living. Pottery was essential to Egyptian households, serving nearly every domestic need. Large storage jars held grain, smaller vessels contained oils, wines, and water, while bowls and dishes were used for food preparation and serving. Egyptian pottery ranged from rough utilitarian wares to finely decorated pieces, depending on function and the owner's status. Most households produced their own simple pottery or acquired it through local exchange. The potter's wheel was known in Egypt from early times, allowing for efficient production. Vessels were dried in the sun and then fired in simple kilns to create durable containers essential for desert living. Visualize the variety of pottery in our household. Large, egg-shaped storage jars standing in corners, their pointed bottoms pressed into the dirt floor for stability. Smaller jars with narrow necks to minimize evaporation of precious liquids. Wide bowls for food preparation. Tiny pots for cosmetics or medicines. The utilitarian forms beautiful in their simplicity, some decorated with simple painted patterns. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, appreciating these ancient vessels that sustained daily life. Furniture in most homes was minimal by our standards. Wooden stools and low tables, reed mats that could be rolled up when not in use, simple storage chests, these would be the essential pieces. Beds were often just raised platforms built of mud brick as part of the house structure, though wooden bed frames with woven string or reed mattresses existed for those who could afford them. The quality and elaboration of furniture varied enormously by social class. While our craftsman's household might have a few well-made wooden pieces, perhaps showing Amenemhat's own skill, most items would be simple and functional. In wealthy homes, furniture might be inlaid with ivory or precious woods, carved with elaborate designs, or painted in bright colors. Lighting came from simple oil lamps, shallow dishes with a floating wick, or from torches for outdoor illumination. Cooking was done over open fires or in clay ovens using pots and pans made of pottery or more rarely copper or bronze. Breathe deeply now. In, hold, and out. Feeling surrounded by these uncomplicated objects that served their purpose for thousands of years. Toys and games were important elements of household material culture. Children played with dolls made of clay, wood, or linen, balls made of leather stuffed with plant fibers, spinning tops, and rattles. Game boards for Senet and other popular games might be permanent household objects carved from wood or stone, or temporary versions scratched into the dirt for casual play. Tools for household industries were carefully maintained and often passed down through generations. Spindles and distaffs for textile work, grinding stones for processing grain, needles made from bone or copper, knives and scrapers for food preparation. These essential implements made daily work possible. Take a long, relaxing breath now, in, hold, and out, connecting with these tangible objects that shaped ancient lives. The ancient Egyptian diet was remarkably healthy by pre-modern standards based on a wide variety of plant foods supplemented by fish, poultry, and occasional meat. Let's explore the food culture of our household more thoroughly. Take a deep breath in, hold, and out as we discover these ancient flavors and culinary practices. Bread and beer formed the foundation of the Egyptian diet, so much so that the hieroglyphic symbols for food were bread and beer. Egyptian bread came in many varieties, from simple barley flatbreads to softer, leavened loaves made from emmer wheat for special occasions. They might be flavored with honey, fruits, or seeds for variety and additional nutrition. Beer was safer to drink than potentially contaminated water and provided valuable calories and nutrients. Egyptian beer was thicker and less alcoholic than modern versions, made from partially baked barley bread that was crumbled into water and allowed to ferment. It was often flavored with dates, honey, or spices and was consumed by everyone, including children. Visualize the daily bread making in our household. Neferet grinding grain on a stone quern, the physical effort required to produce fine flour. She mixes the flour with water and a bit of starter dough saved from yesterday's batch, kneading it thoroughly before shaping loaves that will bake in the conical clay oven in the courtyard. The aroma of baking bread fills the air, one of the oldest and most comforting food smells known to humanity. Take another deep breath in, hold, and out, allowing these ancient aromas to enhance your journey. Vegetables were abundant in the Egyptian diet. Onions and garlic were staples, appreciated both for flavor and medicinal properties. Egyptians also consumed leeks, lettuce, cucumbers, radishes, and a variety of beans and lentils. Most families maintained small garden plots where they grew these essential foods. Fruits provided sweetness in the Egyptian diet. Dates were particularly important, nutritious, easily preserved, and versatile in cooking. Figs, grapes, pomegranates, and melons were enjoyed when in season. Dom palm nuts and tiger nuts, a type of tuber, provided additional nutrients. Animal proteins came primarily from fish and fowl rather than red meat for most Egyptians. The Nile provided various fish species that were eaten fresh or preserved by drying and salting. Wild and domesticated birds, ducks, geese, quail were more common sources of meat than beef, which was expensive and usually reserved for special occasions or offerings. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out. Appreciating this ancient diet that sustained generations with its balance and variety. Cooking techniques were simple but effective. Food might be boiled in clay pots, roasted over open flames, baked in clay ovens, or preserved through drying, salting, or fermentation. Seasonings included salt, cumin, coriander, dill, and mint, along with garlic and onions. Honey was the primary sweetener, while oils pressed from flax seeds or other plants were used for cooking and flavoring. Meals in our household would typically consist of bread and beer accompanied by vegetables, perhaps a legume stew, and occasionally fish or poultry. The evening meal was the largest when the family gathered after the day's work. Food would be served in pottery bowls, eaten with the fingers or simple wooden or bone spoons, with diners seated on mats on the floor rather than at a table. Take a deep, relaxing breath in, hold, and out, imagining yourself sharing this simple but nutritious ancient meal. If you're finding this historical journey soothing, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us create more of these relaxing historical narratives. The role of animals in the household. Animals played crucial roles in ancient Egyptian households, serving practical needs while often forming emotional bonds with family members. Let's explore these human-animal relationships. Take a deep breath. In, hold, and out, as we discover these ancient companions and helpers. Dogs were perhaps the earliest domesticated animals in Egypt, valued as hunting companions, guardians, and pets. Egyptian dogs came in various breeds, from sleek hunting hounds to sturdy watchdogs. They were so appreciated that they received names and sometimes elaborate burials. In our household, a medium-sized dog might help guard against intruders while providing companionship to the children. Cats became domesticated later than dogs, but achieved special status in Egyptian culture. Initially valued for controlling rodents that threatened grain stores, cats soon became beloved household companions. Their grace and hunting prowess led to association with the goddess Bastet, but before becoming divine symbols, they were practical additions to the household. A cat in our family's home would keep vermin at bay while receiving affection and care from all members. Visualize these animal companions in our household: a loyal dog sleeping in the courtyard, alert to strangers approaching the door; a sleek cat slipping through the rooms, keeping a watchful eye for mice near the grain storage, occasionally accepting gentle pets from the children. Take another deep breath. In, hold, and out, feeling the timeless connection between humans and their animal companions. Beyond pets, many animals served essential economic functions. Even in urban settings, families might keep a few chickens for eggs and occasional meat. Those with sufficient space might raise ducks or geese. Wealthier households or those in more rural areas would keep larger livestock: goats for milk, sheep for wool, donkeys for transportation and labor. Pigeons were commonly kept in specialized towers built onto homes or as separate structures. Their droppings provided valuable fertilizer for gardens, while the birds themselves offered eggs and meat. Dovecotes, pigeon houses, became characteristic features of Egyptian villages, a tradition that continues in rural Egypt to this day. For most ordinary Egyptians, animals represented significant investments requiring care and resources. The relationship was primarily practical, though evidence suggests genuine affection developed, particularly for household pets. Tomb paintings and writings show Egyptians mourning beloved animals and wanting their companionship in the afterlife. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out, appreciating these ancient relationships between humans and animals that enriched life on both sides. The cycle of life: birth, marriage, and death. The great transitions of human life, birth, marriage, death, were marked with special rituals and practices in ancient Egyptian households. Let's explore how our family would experience these profound moments. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we witness these ancient passages through life. Childbirth was a dangerous time for both mother and infant in the ancient world. Egyptian women gave birth in a specialized posture, often kneeling on birthing bricks with female relatives or midwives assisting. Protective amulets and spells were employed, invoking deities associated with childbirth like Taweret and Bes. The moment of birth was seen as perilous not just physically but spiritually, requiring divine protection. When a child was born into our household, female relatives and neighbors would gather to support Neferet through labor. After delivery, both mother and newborn would rest in a separate area of the house for a period of purification, typically about 14 days. During this time, they would receive special care, with the mother eating strengthening foods and the infant being protected from evil influences with amulets and rituals. Visualize this scene: the women of the household and neighborhood gathering to help with the birth, bringing their accumulated wisdom and practical experience. The air filled with prayers and encouragement, the moment of birth greeted with joy and relief. The newborn, wrapped snugly, placed in its mother's arms while protective symbols are drawn on the walls around them. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, connecting with this timeless human experience of bringing new life into the world. Marriage in ancient Egypt was a social and economic arrangement rather than a religious ceremony. A contract would be drawn up, outlining the property each partner brought to the union, and provisions for children and divorce if necessary. The actual marriage was marked by the bride moving her possessions to the groom's house, or sometimes vice versa, followed by a celebration with family and friends. For a wedding in our household, Preparations would involve creating new furnishings for the couple's living space, preparing special foods for the feast, and perhaps acquiring new clothing for the bride and groom. The celebration would include music, dancing, and shared meals, strengthening community bonds while marking the creation of a new family unit. Death was the transition that received the most elaborate attention in Egyptian culture. The famous mummification practices and tombs were reserved for the elite, but all Egyptians prepared for the afterlife according to their means. Even modest households would provide some grave goods for deceased family members: pottery vessels with food and drink, personal items for use in the next life, perhaps a simple coffin for protection of the body. Breathe deeply now. In, hold, and out. Contemplating these ancient approaches to life's great transitions. If you're finding this historical journey through ancient Egypt restful, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating these soothing historical narratives. The experience of time in ancient Egypt. The way ancient Egyptians experienced and measured time differed significantly from our modern relationship with clocks and calendars. Let's explore their perception of time and how it shaped daily life in our household. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we step into this different temporal world. The Egyptian day was measured primarily by the sun's position. Dawn, midday, and sunset were the main divisions, with the position of shadows providing more specific indications during daylight hours. Night was divided into hours based on the rising of specific stars or constellations. For ordinary households, these natural indicators were sufficient for coordinating daily activities. More precise timekeeping existed through devices like water clocks, vessels that measured time by the regulated flow of water, and shadow clocks, early sundials. But these were primarily used in temples and administrative contexts rather than ordinary homes. Our household would rise with the sun, take a break during the intense midday heat, and conclude most activities as darkness fell. Visualize this natural rhythm. A Nakht awakening at first light, knowing it's time to begin work not by the artificial beep of an alarm, but by the changing quality of light and the sounds of stirring throughout the neighborhood. The intensity of the midday sun signals the time for a break and a simple meal. The lengthening afternoon shadows indicate when to begin thinking about evening preparations. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, feeling yourself synchronizing with these natural temporal rhythms. The Egyptian calendar combined lunar observations with the solar year and the all-important annual Nile flood. Their civil calendar consisted of 3 seasons of 4 months each, with each month having 30 days, plus 5 additional days at the year's end, dedicated to celebrating the birthdays of important deities. This 365-day calendar was remarkably accurate, though it slowly drifted relative to the true solar year, since it lacked the adjustment of leap years. Religious festivals punctuated the year, providing temporal landmarks for ordinary people. Rather than thinking it's the 3rd month of Peret, the growing season, people might remember it's just after the festival of Opet, or it's near the beautiful Feast of the Valley. These celebrations created a shared cultural calendar that organized collective experience. The Egyptian conception of time itself differed from our linear view. They recognized 2 forms of time: Nakht, cyclical, repeating time associated with the sun's daily journey and seasonal cycles, and Jet, eternal, unchanging time associated with Osiris and the afterlife. Ordinary life existed within Nakht, the predictable, recurring patterns of days, seasons, and years, while aspiring toward the perfect stability of Jet. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out. Feeling yourself carried by these ancient currents of time, both cyclical and eternal. Archives of daily life. How we know. You might be wondering how we know so much about everyday life in ancient Egyptian households. Let's explore the various sources that have allowed archaeologists and historians to reconstruct these intimate details of the past. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we discover the evidence for our historical journey. Egypt's dry climate has preserved organic materials that would have decomposed elsewhere, giving us an unusually complete picture of ancient daily life. Actual physical remains of houses, especially in places like the workers' village of Deir el-Medina and the abandoned city of Amarna, allow archaeologists to study domestic architecture and household organization firsthand. Within these preserved spaces, ordinary objects of daily life have been discovered: furniture, tools, toys, clothing, and personal items. Unlike treasures from royal tombs that represent extraordinary wealth, these humble artifacts show us how ordinary people actually lived. A child's doll with movable arms, a wooden comb with missing teeth, a pair of sandals worn at the heel. These intimate items connect us directly to ancient individuals. Visualize these archaeological discoveries. A house abandoned thousands of years ago, gradually filled with sand that preserved its contents. Archaeologists carefully removing this sand to reveal cooking vessels still in place by the hearth, a child's wooden toy left on the floor, textile fragments preserved in the dry conditions, giving us tangible connections to ancient lives. Take another deep breath. In, hold, and out. Appreciating these precious windows into the ancient world. Egyptian art provides another crucial source. While tomb paintings and temple reliefs often idealize life, they nevertheless show details of activities like cooking, weaving, farming, and childcare. By studying these visual records, scholars can understand tools, techniques, and social settings for various aspects of daily life. Written sources offer additional insights. Administrative records document economic life: what foods were distributed to workers, what goods were exchanged, how much various items cost. Legal documents reveal family structures, inheritance patterns, and social relationships. Personal letters, particularly from later periods, give us direct access to individual voices and concerns. One extraordinary source comes from the village of Deir el-Medina, home to craftsmen who worked on royal tombs. This community was unusually literate, and thousands of written records on pottery fragments and limestone flakes, ostraca, document everything from work absences to marital disputes, bread recipes to religious practices. These casual everyday texts provide an unparalleled view into ordinary life. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out. Grateful for these various forms of evidence that allow us to reconstruct ancient lives with remarkable detail. If you're finding this historical sleep journey soothing, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating these relaxing historical narratives. The geography of home, regional variations. While we've been exploring a somewhat typical household, Egypt's geography created regional variations in daily life. Let's consider how location shaped the experience of home in different parts of this ancient civilization. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we travel through the diverse landscapes of ancient Egypt. In the fertile Nile Delta to the north, households enjoyed abundant water and lush vegetation. Houses in this region were often built with more wood, as timber was more available than in southern regions. The proximity to the Mediterranean meant greater exposure to foreign influences and goods through trade. Diets included more fish and waterfowl, while crafts often incorporated papyrus, which grew abundantly in the marshy environment. Visualize a delta household, the home surrounded by verdant fields and waterways, walls made partially of wooden frames filled with reeds and mud plaster rather than solid mud brick. The courtyard contains a small pool for raising fish, while papyrus grows nearby, harvested for making everything from mats to sandals to writing material. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, feeling the relative coolness and humidity of this northern environment. In Middle Egypt, where we've placed our household, the Nile Valley was narrower, with desert pressing close on either side. Homes here relied more exclusively on mud brick, with minimal wood used only for essential elements like door frames and supports. The stark contrast between the fertile valley and the barren desert shaped daily life, like creating clearly defined agricultural zones and settlements concentrated close to the river. In Upper Egypt, southern, the valley narrowed further, and the climate became even hotter and drier. Houses were built with particularly thick walls for insulation against the heat, often with fewer and smaller windows. Rooftop sleeping areas became especially important during the hottest seasons. The proximity to Nubia influenced styles of decoration, musical traditions, and some aspects of diet and cuisine. Visualize these regional adaptations: northern houses with more windows and lighter construction, southern homes with massive walls and ingenious ventilation systems to manage the intense heat. each region developing distinct local traditions while sharing the fundamental patterns of Egyptian culture. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out, appreciating how humans adapt their dwellings to different environments while maintaining cultural continuity. Oasis communities in the Western Desert existed like islands in the sand sea, dependent on spring water rather than the Nile. Houses here often clustered tightly for mutual protection, with shared walls creating naturally insulated spaces against extreme temperature variations. These isolated communities developed unique traditions while maintaining trade connections with the Nile Valley through desert caravan routes. Urban households differed from rural ones regardless of region. In cities like Memphis, Thebes, or later Alexandria, space constraints led to more vertical building, houses of 2 or even 3 stories with narrower footprints. Urban dwellers had greater access to specialized goods and services, but lived with more noise, crowding, and sanitation challenges than their rural counterparts. Take a deep breath in, hold, and out, contemplating these various expressions of home across the diverse geography of ancient Egypt. Legacy of the Egyptian household. As we near the conclusion of our journey through daily life in ancient Egyptian households, let's consider the lasting impact of these domestic traditions and innovations. Take a deep breath in, hold, and out as we reflect on this ancient legacy. Many elements of ancient Egyptian domestic life proved remarkably durable, not just through their own 3,000-year civilization, but in their influence on later cultures. The basic mud brick construction techniques developed by ancient Egyptians continue to be used in rural Egypt and other parts of Africa and the Middle East today, providing effective, low-cost, and environmentally appropriate housing. Egyptian furniture designs, particularly chairs, stools, and beds, established forms that would influence Greek, Roman, and eventually European furniture. The elegant folding stool, the curved chair back, the four-legged bed frame, all these familiar forms appear in recognizable versions in ancient Egyptian households. Visualize these enduring designs. The graceful curve of a chair back that perfectly supports the human spine, the clever folding stool that combines portability with stability, the storage chest with a curved lid that efficiently sheds dust and debris. These practical solutions to everyday needs have remained relevant for millennia. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, feeling connected to this ancient design wisdom that continues to shape our world. Culinary traditions established in ancient Egypt have shown similar persistence. The basic combination of bread, beer, vegetables, and fruits established a nutritional pattern that sustained Egyptian civilization for thousands of years. Specific foods like date honey, preserved fish, and various herbs and spices moved along trade routes to influence other Mediterranean cuisines. Household crafts and industries, particularly textile production, pottery, and woodworking, established techniques that would be passed down through generations. The horizontal loom, the potter's wheel, and various woodworking tools and methods created in ancient Egypt spread throughout the ancient world, evolving but maintaining their basic principles. Perhaps most fundamentally, the Egyptian conception of home as a center for family life. Practical work, religious observance, and intergenerational connection established patterns that would be recognizable across many cultures and time periods. The universal human need for shelter became, in Egyptian hands, not just protection from the elements, but an expression of social values, practical ingenuity, and cultural identity. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out, appreciating this ancient wisdom about creating spaces for human flourishing. If you've enjoyed this historical sleep journey, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating these soothing historical narratives. The innovative tools of daily life. As we continue our journey through ancient Egyptian households, let's explore the ingenious tools and implements that made daily tasks possible. These practical inventions reflect the creativity and adaptability of the ancient Egyptians. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out as we discover these ancient innovations. The shaduf, which we mentioned earlier, revolutionized agriculture by allowing a single person to lift water from the Nile or canals to irrigation ditches at higher elevations. This simple but effective lever system consisted of a long pole balanced on a post with a counterweight on one end and a bucket suspended from the other. The operator would pull down on the rope to submerge the bucket, then allow the counterweight to help lift the filled container. This invention dramatically expanded the amount of land that could be cultivated beyond the natural flood zone. Visualize a farmer operating this device. The rhythmic movement of lowering and raising, the splash of water pouring into channels that will bring life to crops, the satisfaction of accomplishing with modest effort what would otherwise require exhausting labor. Such simple machines extended human capabilities and increased productivity in crucial ways. Take another deep breath in, hold, and out, appreciating these practical solutions to everyday challenges. Inside the home, the hand mill or quern was essential for converting grain into flour. This consisted of two stones, a larger, stationary base and a smaller, movable upper stone. Women would pour grain onto the base stone, then use the upper stone to grind the kernels with a back-and-forth motion. This labor-intensive process might occupy several hours each day in a typical household, the rhythmic scraping of stone on stone forming a backdrop to other domestic activities. Food preparation involved numerous specialized tools. Ceramic cooking pots came in various sizes and shapes for different purposes. Deep vessels for boiling stews, shallow pans for baking flatbreads, narrow-necked jars for storing oils and wines, knives with flint or metal blades, wooden spoons, stone mortars and pestles for grinding herbs and spices. Each tool reflected an understanding of specific culinary needs. Textile production required its own specialized implements. The drop spindle, a weighted stick that helped twist fibers into thread as it rotated, allowed workers to create miles of thread needed for weaving. Horizontal looms, often secured to the ground with pegs, provided a frame for the complex process of interlacing threads into cloth. Bone or wooden needles with small eyes enabled sewing and embroidery for finishing garments. Breathe deeply now. In, hold, and out. Imagining the skillful hands that wielded these ancient tools. If you're enjoying this historical sleep journey, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating these soothing historical narratives. The Egyptian home through the senses. Let's deepen our exploration of ancient Egyptian households by engaging all our senses. What would it be like to experience these spaces through sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste? Take a deep breath in, hold, and out as we immerse ourselves more fully in this ancient sensory world. Visually, an Egyptian home would present a play of light and shadow. The intense outdoor sunlight would give way to cooler dimness inside, with shafts of light angling through small, high windows. Wall surfaces were typically whitewashed, reflecting available light and creating a clean backdrop for everyday life. In more prosperous homes, walls might be decorated with painted patterns or scenes. Textiles added color through woven mats, cushions, and wall hangings, their patterns often incorporating protective symbols or natural motifs. The visual landscape extended beyond the walls to courtyards where the family spent much of their time when weather permitted. Here, the brilliant blue Egyptian sky formed a canopy overhead, while carefully tended plants, vegetables for the kitchen, herbs for medicine and cooking, perhaps flowers for aesthetic pleasure, added green life to the earth and surroundings. Visualize this interplay of light and shadow, color and texture. The white walls glowing softly in filtered light, the earth tones of clay vessels and wooden furnishings, splashes of color from textiles and plants, all harmonizing with the natural materials of the home itself. Take another deep breath. In, hold, and out. Allowing these ancient visual impressions to form in your mind. The soundscape of an Egyptian home would combine natural and human-made elements. Within the thick walls, outdoor noises would be muffled but still perceptible. The distant call of birds, perhaps the braying of donkeys, the murmur of community activity. Inside, household sounds would prevail. The rhythmic scraping of grain being ground, the clatter of cooking implements, the soft swish of reed brooms on packed earth floors. Human voices added another layer. Parents directing children, family members discussing daily matters, perhaps singing while working or telling stories in evening hours. These sounds would echo differently in various parts of the house, the hard surfaces of walls and floors reflecting voices while textiles absorbed them. Outside in the courtyard, sounds would be more varied and immediate. Water splashing as it was poured for washing or cooking, the crackle of cooking fires, perhaps the clucking of chickens kept for eggs, or the purring of a cat lying in a patch of sun. All these formed an acoustic landscape both familiar and comforting to the household members. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out, letting these ancient sounds wash over your imagination. The olfactory experience of an Egyptian home would be rich and varied. Cooking aromas would predominate at certain hours, the yeasty smell of bread baking in clay ovens, the sharp sense of onions and garlic being prepared, the sweet perfume of dates or honey used in special dishes. These food smells mingled with the earthy scent of the mud brick walls themselves, especially when dampened to keep them cool. Incense burned at household shrines added another olfactory layer. Frankincense, myrrh, or locally produced aromatics, creating a distinct atmosphere for spiritual moments. Personal scents contributed too, as Egyptians of all social classes used oils and unguents perfumed with flowers, herbs, or imported aromatics to protect their skin and enhance their presence. Less pleasant smells were part of daily life as well. The smoky odor from cooking fires that never completely dissipated, the occasional waft from waste disposal areas despite careful management, the musty scent of stored grain or dried herbs. Yet even these less appealing odors formed part of the familiar sensory landscape of home. Take a slow, deep breath in, hold, and out, imagining these ancient aromas filling your senses. The tactile experience of an Egyptian home centered on natural materials. Bare feet would feel the cool smoothness of packed earth floors, perhaps covered in some areas with woven reed mats that provided texture underfoot. Fingers would encounter the slightly rough texture of whitewashed walls, the smooth finish of wooden furniture, rubbed to a soft sheen through years of use, the intricate weave of linen textiles ranging from coarse to remarkably fine. Temperature offered another tactile dimension. The thick mud brick walls created a natural cooling effect, with interior spaces noticeably cooler than the scorching outdoors during hot days. This temperature gradient was immediately apparent when moving from sunlight into the home's sheltered interior, a natural air conditioning achieved through ingenious architectural design rather than mechanical means. Water presented another tactile experience, cool liquid for drinking or washing, drawn from storage jars where it was kept fresh. The sensation of water on skin would be particularly welcome in the hot, dry climate, a momentary refreshment that reminded the body of comfort amid challenging conditions. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out, feeling these ancient textures against your imagined skin. If you're finding this historical journey through ancient Egypt relaxing, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating these soothing historical narratives. The language of the household. The ancient Egyptian language formed the backdrop for all household activities, shaping how family members communicated and understood their world. Let's explore how language functioned in daily life. Take a deep breath in, hold, and out as we listen to these ancient voices. The language spoken in our household would be Middle Egyptian during the New Kingdom period we're exploring. This language had evolved over centuries from earlier forms and would continue to evolve into later variants, though written forms remained more conservative. Like modern languages, Egyptian included various registers: formal speech for religious or official occasions, casual conversation for family interaction, specialized vocabulary for different crafts and activities. Family members would use specific terms of address reflecting their relationships. Parents were called it, father, and mut, mother, terms spoken with the respect that Egyptian culture accorded to parents and elders. Children were sa, son, or sat, daughter, words that carried connotations of both lineage and responsibility. These kinship terms reinforced family bonds and social expectations with every utterance. Visualize the family in conversation. Parents giving instructions using affectionate but authoritative tones, children responding with terms that acknowledge the family hierarchy, siblings using familiar forms of address with each other that reflect their relative ages and positions within the family structure. Take another deep breath. In, hold, and out. Imagining these ancient words flowing between family members. Daily conversation would include greetings, work coordination, expressions of emotion, storytelling, and instruction. The same communicative functions we engage in today, though with cultural particularities. Egyptians commonly greeted each other with wishes for life, prosperity, and health, values at the core of their worldview. Expressions of gratitude often invoke divine blessing, reflecting the integration of religion into everyday speech. Work instructions would include specialized vocabulary for different household industries. Textile work had terms for various weaving techniques, thread qualities, and fabric characteristics. Food preparation included specific words for different cooking methods, ingredients, and culinary tools. These specialized lexicons were passed down with the skills themselves, forming part of the cultural knowledge transmitted between generations. Storytelling played a crucial role in family communication. Oral narratives about deities, cultural heroes, moral lessons, and family history entertained while transmitting values and information. These stories, told during evening hours or work breaks, used linguistic features like repetition, formulaic phrases, and dramatic pacing to aid memory and enhance engagement. Before widespread literacy, these verbal arts preserved cultural knowledge for millennia. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out, feeling these ancient stories washing over you like gentle waves. Written language played a more limited role in most households. Hieroglyphs, the elaborate pictorial script seen on temples and tombs, were primarily used for monumental and religious texts. Everyday writing employed hieratic, a cursive form written with reed pens on papyrus or pottery fragments. Later, an even more cursive form called demotic, developed for administrative and legal documents. In our craftsman's household, Nakht might have basic literacy for recording business transactions or reading simple instructions. His son, learning the same trade, might be acquiring similar limited reading and writing skills. Full literacy, the ability to read and write fluently, was primarily limited to professional scribes who underwent years of training. Most information passed through households orally rather than in written form. Take a deep breath. In, hold, and out, appreciating both the spoken and written forms of this ancient language. Water management and hygiene. Water, precious in the desert environment, shaped many aspects of household management and personal care. Let's explore how Egyptians handled this essential resource. Take a deep breath. In, hold, and out, as we discover these ancient approaches to water use. Water collection was a daily task for many Egyptian households. Those living near the Nile or its canals would send family members, typically women or children, to fill pottery jars with water several times daily. Those living farther from water sources might receive deliveries from water carriers who transported this necessity in exchange for payment or other goods. Once brought to the household, water was carefully managed to serve multiple purposes. The highest quality water would be reserved for drinking and cooking. Water from previous uses might be recycled for cleaning floors or watering plants, ensuring maximum utility from each precious drop. Visualize the water management in our household. Large storage jars keeping drinking water cool through evaporation, smaller vessels distributed throughout the home for various uses, careful attention paid to covering containers to prevent contamination or insect breeding. Nothing wasted in this desert environment where water meant life. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, appreciating the value of clean, fresh water more deeply. Personal hygiene was surprisingly important in ancient Egypt, despite water limitations. Egyptians were known throughout the ancient world for their cleanliness, a practice with both practical and religious dimensions. Regular washing removed sweat and dust in the hot climate, while also fulfilling concepts of purity important in religious observance. Most Egyptians bathed daily, though not in the immersive style we might imagine. They would typically wash using a basin, pouring water over themselves, or using dampened cloths to cleanse the body. Wealthier households might have dedicated washing spaces, while most families used multi-purpose areas like courtyards for this activity, often in the morning before the day's heat intensified. Cleansing agents included natron, a naturally occurring mineral salt with detergent properties, various types of clay, and plant materials that produced lather when rubbed with water. These substances were effective for removing dirt and oil, though harsher than modern soaps. After washing, oils would be applied to protect the skin from drying in the arid climate. Breathe deeply now. In, hold, and out. Feeling clean and refreshed as we continue our journey. If you're enjoying this historical sleep journey, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating these soothing historical narratives. Dental hygiene received attention as well. Egyptians created early versions of toothpaste using ingredients like powdered ox hooves, ashes, eggshells, and pumice. These abrasive mixtures would be applied with the fingers or primitive brushes made from twigs with frayed ends. Archaeological evidence shows mixed results from these practices. Some mummies show severe dental wear from abrasive cleaning materials, while others maintain surprisingly healthy teeth. Waste management presented another water-related challenge. Most homes had designated areas for human waste, either simple pit latrines or containers that would be emptied regularly. In some urban areas, early sewage systems existed, though nothing as sophisticated as later Roman innovations. The hot, dry climate helped reduce odors and disease transmission, as waste dried quickly and decomposed. The Egyptian approach to hygiene, while limited by available technology, demonstrated remarkable understanding of the connection between cleanliness and health. Their practices helped prevent the spread of many diseases and contributed to relatively good public health for an ancient civilization. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, appreciating these ancient approaches to cleanliness and hygiene. Motherhood and child rearing. The experience of motherhood and approaches to raising children reveal much about a culture's values and social structure. Let's explore how the women of our household experience these fundamental aspects of family life. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we witness motherhood in ancient Egypt. Motherhood held honored status in Egyptian culture, with fertility and successful child-rearing considered divine blessings. Women like Neferet would expect to become mothers soon after marriage, with families hoping for multiple children despite high infant mortality rates. Pregnancy was recognized through physical changes and the cessation of menstruation, which Egyptians tracked and understood as connected to fertility. During pregnancy, women followed various protective practices. Special amulets were worn to guard mother and developing child. Dietary adjustments increased nutrition, with pregnant women encouraged to consume particular foods believed beneficial. Moderate activity continued through most of the pregnancy, with women maintaining their household duties until the final stages. Visualize an expectant mother in our household. Neferet continuing her textile work while wearing protective amulets shaped like Taweret, the hippopotamus goddess who guarded childbirth. Female relatives and neighbors offer advice and assistance with heavier tasks as her time approaches. The community of women providing a supportive network for this vulnerable transition. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, feeling the ancient rhythms of expectation and preparation. Childbirth itself was women's domain, with midwives and female relatives assisting the mother through labor. Women gave birth in a squatting position supported by birthing bricks, specially shaped supports that helped maintain the position during delivery. Prayers and magical spells offered spiritual protection during this dangerous passage, while practical experience guided the midwives in managing complications when possible. After birth, both mother and infant observed a period of seclusion and purification, typically lasting about 2 weeks. During this time, they remained in a separate area of the house, with the mother recovering from birth while establishing breastfeeding. Special foods would be prepared to strengthen the mother and promote milk production. The newborn would receive its name during this period, often chosen to honor family members or express aspirations for the child's future. Infants remained in close physical proximity to their mothers or other female caregivers, carried in slings during work hours and sleeping alongside adults at night. Breastfeeding typically continued for 3 years, providing both nutrition and contraceptive effects that helped space pregnancies. Wooden or ceramic rattles and simple dolls entertained babies during waking hours. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out, connecting with these ancient experiences of early motherhood. As children grew, training in gender-specific roles began early. By age 4 or 5, girls would start learning household management, food preparation, and textile work, by observing and assisting their mothers and other female relatives. Boys might accompany their fathers for some work activities while still spending most of their early years in female-dominated household spaces. Discipline combined physical punishment with moral instruction, though Egyptian advice texts counseled moderation and emphasized that children could be influenced by example and teaching rather than force alone. The goal of child-rearing was to produce adults who would maintain family traditions, care for aging parents, provide proper funeral rites, and contribute to community stability, values reflected in daily interactions between parents and children. Take a slow, deep breath, in, hold, and out, contemplating these ancient approaches to raising the next generation. Men's roles and responsibilities. While we've explored women's domains in considerable detail, men's roles were equally important to household functioning. Let's examine the masculine spheres of influence and responsibility in our ancient Egyptian home. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we explore these male contributions to family life. The father served as the household's legal head and primary representative in public affairs. Amenemhat would be responsible for agreements and contracts affecting the family, for paying taxes or performing required public service, and for maintaining the family's standing in the community. His name would appear on household property documents, though in practice many decisions would be made jointly with his wife. Men's primary economic contribution came through their specialized labor. As a craftsman, Amenemhat provided income through creating furniture for clients, applying skills acquired through years of apprenticeship and practice. His work not only supported the family financially, but also determined their social position and connections. Craft knowledge, passed from father to son, created continuity across generations, with family reputations for quality workmanship developing over time. Visualize Amenemhat in his workshop, hands skilled from years of practice, teaching his son the techniques for joining wood without nails, applying inlays of contrasting materials, creating pieces that are both functional and beautiful. His reputation brings clients seeking his particular expertise, providing the resources that sustain his household. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, appreciating these skilled male contributions to family welfare. Men held primary responsibility for representing the household in religious ceremonies requiring male participation. While daily offerings at household shrines might be performed by various family members, certain temple rituals and community religious events required male involvement. Fathers also led family participation in ancestor veneration, maintaining connection with deceased relatives whose spiritual support remained important. Educating sons in practical skills and social expectations fell primarily to fathers and other male relatives. Beyond craft techniques, boys learned about appropriate masculine behavior, religious obligations, and community responsibilities through observation and instruction. This gendered knowledge transmission prepared them for adult roles while reinforcing social norms and expectations. Physical protection of the household and its members was another male responsibility. While ancient Egyptian society was less militarized than some contemporaries, men would defend family and property when necessary. This protective role extended to safeguarding the family's reputation and honoring household women, whose status reflected on the entire family. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out, feeling the balance between male and female contributions in this ancient household. If you're finding this historical journey through ancient Egypt restful, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating these soothing historical narratives. Textiles and clothing production. The creation of textiles represented one of the most time-consuming and essential household industries. Let's examine this process that clothed the family, furnished the home, and sometimes generated additional income. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we explore this ancient craft central to daily life. The textile process began with harvesting flax, the primary fiber plant cultivated in ancient Egypt. Flax would be pulled from the ground rather than cut to maximize fiber length, then processed through multiple steps to extract the usable fibers from the woody plant material. This initial processing, soaking the plants to rot away soft tissues, drying the stalks, breaking and combing the fibers might be done at a community level rather than by individual households. Once prepared, flax fibers were spun into thread using drop spindles, weighted sticks that rotated to twist the fibers together as they hung from the spinner's hand. This work could be done while walking, supervising children, or engaging in conversation, making it an ideal background activity that women perform throughout the day while managing other responsibilities. Visualize Nefret and her daughters spinning, fingers deftly drawing out the fibers to the right thickness. The spindle turning to create thread of remarkable consistency, the repetitive motion almost meditative in its rhythm. A basket beside them fills gradually with spools of completed thread, the raw material for the next stage of textile production. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, feeling the rhythmic calm of this ancient handicraft. Weaving transformed thread into fabric on horizontal looms, typically set up in household courtyards where light was good. The basic loom consisted of two beams between which the warp threads were stretched, with heddle rods used to create the shed through which weft threads were passed. This technology, though simple, allowed for creating fabrics of various weights and patterns depending on the skill of the weaver. The finest linens were nearly transparent, requiring exceptional skill and the thinnest possible threads. More everyday fabrics were sturdier, though still of good quality compared to textiles in many other ancient cultures. Pattern weaving, where designs were created through the weaving process itself, required additional specialized knowledge and careful counting of threads. Once fabric was woven, it would be cut and sewn into garments or household textiles. Cutting was done sparingly, as the value of cloth made waste unacceptable. Simple garments might be created from rectangular pieces with minimal cutting, while more complex items required careful planning to use fabric efficiently. Bone or metal needles with small eyes allowed for neat stitching, though seams were kept to a minimum. Breathe deeply now. In, hold, and out, appreciating the skill and patience that went into every piece of cloth. Clothing represented significant household wealth, with each garment requiring many hours of labor to produce. Even simple everyday clothing was therefore cared for meticulously, washed carefully, repaired when damaged, and eventually repurposed when too worn for its original use. Nothing was wasted. Small scraps might become children's clothes, household rags, or even bandages for injuries. Beyond practical clothing and household textiles, fabric might be produced for sale or barter, providing additional income for the family. A household with women skilled in particularly fine weaving or specialized techniques could develop a reputation that brought commissions from wealthier families, creating economic opportunities through this essential craft. Take a slow, deep breath in, hold, and out, feeling the value of these ancient textiles created through patient, skilled work. Privacy and personal space. The concept of privacy differed significantly in ancient Egyptian households compared to our modern expectations. Let's explore how personal space was understood and negotiated in these intimate domestic settings. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we consider these different spatial arrangements and boundaries. The physical layout of Egyptian homes created a gradual transition from public to private space rather than the sharp divisions we often expect today. From the street entrance, visitors would progress through increasingly private areas of the home, with access determined by their relationship to the family. Casual acquaintances might never proceed beyond an entry room or courtyard, while close friends and relatives could enter more intimate family spaces. Most activities took place in shared, multi-purpose areas rather than specialized private rooms. The main living space might serve for cooking, eating, socializing, and working during different parts of the day. Sleeping areas were typically shared by family members, with perhaps simple screens or curtains providing visual separation rather than solid walls and doors. Visualize the spatial organization of our household. The courtyard where neighbors might gather briefly during water collection or food preparation, the main room where family activities concentrate, the sleeping areas where parents and children rest in close proximity, physical closeness reinforcing family bonds through shared space. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, adjusting your modern expectations to this different understanding of personal space. Privacy was conceived more in terms of appropriate access and behavior than physical separation. Certain activities, intimate conversations, marital relations, personal hygiene, would be conducted during times or in ways that provided functional privacy even without dedicated spaces. Family members understood implicit boundaries and appropriate times for different activities without necessarily having separate rooms. Personal possessions provided another expression of individuality in these shared spaces. Small storage chests, niches in walls, or fabric bags might contain individual belongings, special clothing, personal tools, small treasures, cosmetics, or amulets. These items, though few by modern standards, help define personal identity within the collective household. For brief solitude, individuals might seek out transitional spaces like rooftops, garden areas, or locations just beyond the house proper. These moments of separation were generally temporary rather than extended withdrawals from family life. The communal nature of most activities meant that sustained privacy was neither expected nor particularly valued. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out, feeling yourself adjust to this more collective sense of family space. If you're enjoying this historical sleep journey, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating these soothing historical narratives. Record keeping and household management. Even without modern accounting systems, Egyptian households needed ways to track resources, plan production, and manage their domestic economy. Let's explore these practical aspects of household administration. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we examine these ancient management practices. For the majority of households with limited literacy, memory and oral tracking systems provided the primary means of record keeping. Displayed as regular inventories of stored grain, oil, or other resources would be conducted visually and maintained through verbal reporting between family members. Seasonal planning, what to plant, which textiles to produce, how much food to preserve, relied on accumulated experience passed between generations. Physical organization served as another form of record keeping. Storage jars might be arranged in specific orders, with their positions indicating contents or age. Household items would have consistent places, making their presence or absence immediately apparent. These spatial systems functioned as material memory aids, helping maintain awareness of household resources without written records. Visualize these practical systems. Storage jars arranged by content with specific locations for different goods, work materials organized to reveal at a glance what supplies need replenishing. Household tools placed consistently so any missing item would be noticed quickly. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out. Appreciating these practical solutions developed before writing was widespread. In households with some literacy, like our craftsman's family, simple written records might supplement these memory systems. Nakht might keep notes of orders and payments on pottery shards or limestone flakes, ostraka, inexpensive writing surfaces for everyday use. Such records would be basic, perhaps just names, quantities, and marks indicating completion or payment, rather than formal accounting. Resource allocation required careful attention, especially regarding food supplies. The household needed to balance immediate consumption against preservation for less productive seasons. After harvest, decisions would be made about how much grain to store, how much to convert to bread or beer immediately, and how much might be available for trade. Similar calculations applied to other resources, with responsibility for this planning typically shared between husband and wife. Planning for religious obligations also required management. Even modest households needed to set aside resources for offerings to household deities, contributions to community festivals, and eventually funeral provisions. These spiritual investments were considered as essential as physical necessities, integrated into regular household budgeting and planning. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, feeling the careful balance maintained through these management practices. Healing and healthcare in the home. Before modern medicine, households were the primary healthcare providers for family members. Let's explore in greater detail how health issues were addressed in our ancient Egyptian home. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we discover these ancient approaches to wellness and healing. The first line of healthcare was preventive, embedded in daily practices. The Egyptian emphasis on cleanliness, regular washing, clean clothing, neat homes, reduced disease transmission. Their diet, rich in vegetables, fruits, and grains, provided good basic nutrition. Even their houses, designed for proper air circulation and temperature regulation, created healthier living environments than many other ancient dwellings. When illness struck, the household possessed a repertoire of home remedies passed down through generations. A family medical library would exist not in written form, but in collective memory, with recipes for treating common ailments shared primarily among women, who served as primary healthcare providers for the family. Visualize the healing activities in our household. Neferet preparing a garlic and honey mixture for a child's cough, applying a poultice of bread and herb paste to draw out infection from a small wound, brewing a tea of soothing herbs for digestive complaints. These remedies combined empirically effective ingredients with ritual components that addressed what we might now call psychological aspects of healing. Take another deep breath in, hold, and out, appreciating the wisdom accumulated in these ancient healing practices. The Egyptian pharmacopoeia was surprisingly extensive and sophisticated. Honey, recognized for its antibacterial properties, appeared in numerous remedies. Willow bark, containing compounds related to modern aspirin, eased pain and reduced inflammation. Moldy bread might be applied to wounds, an early form of antibiotic treatment. While they didn't understand the biochemical mechanisms, Egyptians had identified through observation many genuinely effective treatments. Beyond physical remedies, households employed protective and healing amulets for various conditions. A child with fever might wear a specific amulet associated with cooling or protection from disease spirits. A pregnant woman would use amulets specifically designed to safeguard mother and unborn child. These objects served psychological purposes while reinforcing the cultural understanding of illness as having both physical and spiritual dimensions. When home remedies proved insufficient, the family might seek outside help. Unlike our centralized medical system, ancient Egyptians could consult various specialists, physicians trained in physical medicine, priests who addressed spiritual aspects of illness, or local wise women with generational knowledge of herbal remedies. Different types of health problems might lead the family to different practitioners. Breathe deeply now, in, hold, and out, feeling gratitude for both ancient wisdom and modern medical advances. If you're finding this historical journey through ancient Egypt relaxing, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue creating these soothing historical narratives. Art and decoration in the home. Even modest Egyptian homes incorporated elements of beauty and meaning through decoration. Let's explore how artistic expression manifested in domestic spaces. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we discover these ancient aesthetic expressions. Wall decoration formed the most prominent canvas for household art. In humble homes like our craftsman's dwelling, this might be as simple as whitewashing the mud brick walls, a practical choice that also created a clean, light-reflecting surface. More prosperous households might add painted decorations, geometric borders, plant motifs, or protective symbols, using mineral pigments mixed with plant gums or egg binders. The choice of decorative elements balanced aesthetic preferences with symbolic meaning. Common motifs included lotus flowers, representing rebirth and connection to the Nile's life-giving properties, papyrus plants, symbolizing Lower Egypt and growth, and protective symbols like the Eye of Horus. These designs weren't merely decorative, but connected the household to broader cultural and religious meanings. Visualize these decorated spaces. The main room of our household, with walls washed in white lime, perhaps with a simple painted border in blue or red near the ceiling, small niches holding household deities painted in bright colors, protective symbols discreetly placed above doorways and windows to safeguard the family. Take another deep breath. In, hold, and out, appreciating the blend of beauty and meaning in these simple decorations. Household shrines provided focal points for more elaborate artistic expression. Even modest homes would dedicate particular attention to areas honoring household deities or ancestors. These spaces might feature small sculptures, painted images, or decorative elements not found in other parts of the home. The aesthetic quality of these sacred spaces reflected the family's respect for divine and ancestral powers. Textiles added another dimension of beauty through color and pattern. While clothing remained primarily white for practical reasons, easily bleached in the sun, comfortable in heat, household textiles like mats, cushions, and wall hangings might incorporate colored threads or embroidery in decorative patterns. These textiles softened the hard surfaces of Egyptian architecture while introducing visual interest. Furniture, particularly in a craftsman's household, could become a vehicle for artistic expression. Wooden items might be carved with simple decorative elements, inlaid with contrasting materials, or painted with protective symbols or nature motifs. These embellishments transformed functional objects into expressions of skill and aesthetic sensibility. Breathe deeply now in, hold, and out, feeling surrounded by these simple but meaningful artistic expressions. Natural elements provided an accessible form of household beautification. Fresh flowers, lotus blossoms, cornflowers, poppies, mandrakes, might be arranged in pottery vessels, especially during festivals or celebrations. Herbs grown for cooking and medicine doubled as fragrant decorative plants. These natural touches connected indoor spaces with the living world outside, bringing color and scent into daily experience. The overall aesthetic of Egyptian homes emphasized harmony, order, and meaningful symbolism rather than elaborate decoration for its own sake. Beauty served practical and spiritual purposes, integrated into daily life rather than separated as pure ornament. This approach created living spaces that nourished both body and spirit through simple, intentional design. Take a slow, deep breath, in, hold, and out, feeling the balanced beauty of these ancient living spaces. Childhood games and toys play has always been central to childhood development, teaching skills while creating joy. Let's explore the world of children's games and toys in our ancient Egyptian household. Take a deep breath, in, hold, and out, as we discover these ancient playthings and pastimes. Physical games developed coordination and strength while building social bonds. Children played versions of tag, hide and seek, and tug of war recognizable to modern observers. They engaged in swimming contests in canals or the Nile, foot races across open ground, and wrestling matches that mimicked adult sport forms they observed in community festivals. Ball games were particularly popular, using leather balls stuffed with plant fibers or rags. Children played catch, rudimentary forms of team sports, and games of skill involving bouncing or hitting targets. These activities developed coordination while creating shared excitement and friendly competition. Conclusion: eternal homes. As our journey through ancient Egyptian households comes to a close, let's reflect on what these dwellings can teach us about the timeless nature of home and the fundamental human needs it serves. Take a deep breath in, hold, and out as we gather the threads of our exploration. The ancient Egyptian home, despite its differences from our modern dwellings, served the same essential functions: protection from the elements, a space for family cohesion, a center for productive work, and a personal anchor in the larger community. In studying these ancient households, we see both the differences shaped by their specific time and place and the underlying similarities that connect their experience to our own. Egyptian homes were expressions of practical wisdom, using local materials and ingenious design to create comfortable spaces in a challenging climate. The thick mud brick walls that kept interiors cool, the high windows that facilitated air circulation, the multi-purpose rooms that adapted to different needs throughout the day and year. All these features represented solutions refined over generations of experience. Visualize once more our Egyptian household as evening falls. The family gathered in the main room or courtyard, the day's work complete. Oil lamps cast a warm glow on faces that, beneath the differences in dress and styling, express emotions we would immediately recognize: parental concern, youthful curiosity, elderly wisdom, shared joy in being together at day's end. Take another deep breath, in, hold, and out, feeling yourself connected across time to these ancient people and their daily lives. The Egyptian understanding of home extended beyond the physical dwelling to encompass both community in this life and continuation in the next. Their belief that homes in the afterlife would resemble those in earthly existence has gifted us with remarkable tomb models and paintings that preserve details of domestic architecture and furnishings. In preparing for eternity, they created records of daily life that allow us, thousands of years later, to glimpse their intimate spaces. This perspective offers a profound way of thinking about home, not as a temporary shelter, but as a pattern of living so fundamental that it transcends even death. The ancient Egyptians created homes that balanced practical needs with deeper human yearnings for beauty, meaning, and connection. In their sleeping rooms and kitchens, workshops and courtyards, they crafted spaces that sustained not just bodies, but families, traditions, and cultural identity. Breathe deeply once more, in, hold, and out, feeling yourself drifting peacefully as our journey concludes. As you prepare for your own rest, perhaps carry with you some wisdom from these ancient households, their attunement to natural rhythms, their integration of practical work with family relationships, their finding of sacred meaning in everyday spaces and objects. The ancient Egyptians, in their homes along the Nile so many centuries ago, discovered patterns of living that still resonate with our fundamental human needs for shelter, sustenance, beauty, and belonging. May your dreams be peaceful. Perhaps visiting these ancient courtyards and quiet rooms where oil lamps once flickered and families gathered in the cool evening air after days of work beneath the same stars that watch over us tonight. Rest well, knowing that in our basic human needs and experiences, we are connected to countless generations who have found comfort in the concept of home. Thank you for joining me on this historical sleep journey through ancient Egyptian households. If you've enjoyed this exploration and found it restful, please remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more historical sleep journeys. Sleep well, and may you awaken refreshed, carrying perhaps a small spark of ancient wisdom into your modern day.